I believe the Ethiopian government is demonstrating its true nature. In traditional Ethiopian form, the current government is very authoritarian and even totalitarian. It is no different from the previous government because it will never allow itself to be subject to democratic change. Therefore, I am very disappointed in their actions.
The opposition, as you know, feels the detention of its leaders is illegal and has been calling for their immediate release, a call, of course, echoed by the United States and the international community in general. Now, Mr. Meles rejects that call and now says the detained will in fact be charged with treason and possibly face the death penalty. Now, treason, death penalty, that's heavy stuff, isn't it?
It's very heavy, and it's just like the previous regime that Mr. Meles fought so hard to get rid of. And I do not condone violence by opposition groups, but it seems to me that the reaction of the regime is far beyond what is necessary. I think it's demonstrating that Meles is really very weak and that he's fighting for survival. I wouldn't be surprised if some of this demonstrating has been incited by his own party, his opposition in his own party who want to get rid of him.
You may have heard the Ethiopian information minister recently remarked that Western countries should, in his words, stop meddling in Ethiopia's internal affairs and to keep minding their own business. As a former top U.S. official for Africa, how do you view such statements?
Well, I believe that national sovereignty is important, but the day has gone by when governments can commit human rights violations and can prevent democracy from arising without outside criticism. Those days are long gone, and every government, including our own, has to accept the observers and the criticisms of other parties because there are universal principles which must be observed.
Of course, Ambassador Cohen, you're aware many Ethiopians feel that you, Ambassador Cohen, were in fact instrumental in helping Mr. Meles and his party get to power upon the demise of the Derg regime. And of course, at the time, you had some complimentary things to say about Mr. Meles. Apparently, your assessment of the Prime Minister Meles administration has changed. Do you feel you were in error at the time or something just went wrong somewhere along the line?
Well, Mr. Meles and his TPLF party fought to overthrow a very dictatorial and tyrannical regime, and we applauded his action. We didn't bring him to power. His party brought itself to power. What we did was help to end the war with a minimum of violence in the city of Addis Ababa. And everything that Prime Minister Meles said at the time indicated that he was a true believer in the democratic process. But over 10, 12 years, he has proved to be a disappointment because he and his party will not accept the risk of being voted out of office. They are condemned to rule the country as a minority, and that is very dangerous for stability.
Now, cumulatively, of course, Mr. Meles has now been in power for over 14 years. And if he does, in fact, serve another full 5 years, from here on, he'll have been in office for 19 years, and that's even longer than the hated Mengistu dictatorship he replaced in 1991. Can you really have democracy without term limits?
Well, I believe term limits are becoming increasingly important, not only in Africa, but in the rest of the world. The United States has term limits ever since the end of the Second World War. And it is a healthy thing because when one leadership remains in office too long, they become stagnant, they become oppressive, and they become corrupt. This is universally true. So I truly recommend term limits.
Now, of course, many say Ethiopia is now at a critical crossroads and that the international community should be more actively engaged in helping Ethiopians build a truly democratic society. What kind of a role do you feel the United States should play from here on to promote and strengthen democracy in Ethiopia?
Well, that is not easy because I think the government there does not welcome interference in their democratic process. They're very happy to take economic assistance from the World Bank, from the United States, and other donors, and to a certain extent they're making good use of that assistance. I believe leverage should be used with that assistance to encourage greater transparency and greater democratization in that country. It is complicated because the Horn of Africa has cells of Islamic terrorism, and the Ethiopians are very cooperative with the United States. So it is delicate, and I think the highest priority for the United States right now is the fight against terrorism. Therefore, we must be very careful in trying to put too much pressure on Ethiopia in terms of democratization.
Of course, the other side of the argument is that any government that will come to power in Ethiopia, be it the opposition, it will, in fact, if anything, be more effective in helping the United States fight terrorism.
That's a good argument, but I believe that the United States must put its national interest first, which is the war on terror.
Ambassador Herman Cohen, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.